Learn logical operators in JavaScript. There are three main logical operators that you will use incredibly often. There are not, and, or logical operators, and one of them you remember from the previous video. I start from a quick reminder. I will write a simple if statement with literal true value inside of the brackets. And I also write an else statement. I have written a simple if statement where if the statement is true, we have a message in the console that this statement is true, and if the statement is false, we have a message that this statement is false. Let's look at the console. To show my console in the browser, I will use a simple HTML file that you might copy and paste, and also live server extension. I will click Go Live button. I will see a new gray window where I can right click, choose Inspect, and choose Console tab. Here we will see two messages. This statement is true and live reload enabled. I can refresh the page by clicking this refresh button. Right now we see only one message in our console. But what happens if I put an exclamation mark that calls logical not operator? I will save the file, and right now we see that this statement is false. The same if I will change this true value to false. I save the file and we see that this statement is true. Logical not operator works as a toggler or inverter. It changes the value to the opposite one. But let's continue with logical and operator. I'll write logical and operator as a title, and as you see, this symbol or this sign means and. I will use the same example, but I will write true and true, and save the file, and right now we see that this statement is true. For example, I have two statements. First statement is true and the second statement is true. And as it contains in one parenthesis, in one if statement, this expression will give the true. The same if I will write false and false. I save the file and you see that this statement is false because our first check is false and our second check is false. The most interesting part of this operator when we have two different statements, when we have two different results in the checks. For example, I have false and true. In this case, we still have false value as the result. To better understand how it works, let's write an example. Let's assume that we have a street that contains houses. So I will write a first variable as let house amount equal to, let's assume 10. The second variable will be villagers, or I will write let people amount. And let's assume that we have 100 people. Let's also agree that in one house can live 10 people. If I have one house, it means that there are living 10 people. And our program should give the message if we have enough houses or not. Let's check if there are enough houses on the street. At first, I will write if statements that we already know. I will write a statement where if house amount, that is 10 in our case, multiply by 10, this is the amount of people that might live in one house, is greater than people amount, that is 100 right now. I will write a message that we have enough houses. If I save the file, we will not see any changes in our console because if we calculate 10 multiplied by 10 equals 100 and 100 is not more than 100. It means that I should write more or equal to, because if we have 10 houses where can live 10 people and we have only 100 people, there are enough houses. If I save the file, right now we see this message. Let's also write else statement. I will write a new message that declares that we need more houses. Right now, let's change this number to our actual variable, house amount, and the second variable to people amount. Right now, I might save the file and we still see our first message. If I increase the amount of people, we will see that we need more houses, because right now we have only place for 100 people, but we have 1000 people. If it's clear, let's add one more building, for example, groceries or food stores. Grocery amount equals to, for example, 100. And let's also agree that one grocery might serve 5 people. I also found that I put semicolon, I might delete them, nothing will be changed. And right now we will have a little bit another question. Let's check if there are enough buildings on the street. I will change this question houses to buildings. As you see, grocery is a building and house is a building. Let's write a new solution, but at this point we'll use logical AND operators. What I should actually write, let's think when we have enough buildings. We have enough buildings if we have enough houses and enough groceries. Inside of our if statement, I should write if house amount multiplied by 10 is more or equal to people amount, and if grocery stores multiplied by 5 is also more or equal to people amount, then I should log the message in our console that we have enough buildings. I increased our Visual Studio Code that right now you might see exactly how this huge line looks like. And right here I can write also an else statement that is absolutely the same that we had in our previous example. Now our message will be logged in the console only if we have enough houses and enough grocery amounts. Because as you remember from this example, if we have true and true, we have console log with this statement is true. If one of these conditions is false, then JavaScript shows this statement is false. Let's also check our file and look at the console. And right now we see that we need more houses because we have only one grocery store. But if we change this number to 1000 grocery stores, we see that we have enough buildings. Right now let's talk about logical OR operator. I will delete our previous example, change this title to logical OR operator that looks like this symbol. And let's change this example to true or true. If I save the file, we'll see that this statement is true. It works absolutely identical as AND operator when we have two true statements. Let's also change true to false, and the second one also to false. If I save the file, we see that this statement is false. False or false gives the false value at the result. The only changes that they have is when we have different statements. If I have true or false, this statement is true. This is the main difference between AND and OR logical operators. Let's look at another example to better understand how it works. Let's assume that we have a speed limit and 3 cars, and we want to find have any driver exceeded the speed limit. I wrote 4 different variables. Our first variable is speed limit, that is 90 km per hour or 55 miles per hour. And then I will work with kilometers per hour, and we have a bus with a speed of 50 km per hour, truck that goes 70 km per hour, and sports car that goes 90 km per hour. Let's think how to find if there are any exceeds. If our bus driver exceeds the speed limit, or if the truck exceeds the limit, or if the sports car exceeds the limit, we have speeders. And as you have heard, I used OR in my speech, so I can use OR in our if statements to check this condition. If bus greater than speed limit, or if truck is greater than speed limit, or if sports car is greater than speed limit, we will write a message that there are some speeders. I will write an else statement with the message that no speeders have been detected. Right now we see the message in our console that no speeders have been detected because no one from our list of drivers exceeds the speed limit. But if I change the sports car speed to 100, we will see another message that there are speeders. Let's also calculate the result manually. Bus speed is greater than speed limit. We see that bus speed is less than speed limit, so instead of the statement, we'll have false. I might write false at the result right here, then or, and I need to look at the another statement separately. Truck greater than speed limit. We see that truck speed is less than speed limit, so this statement is also equals to false. Right now we have the last condition that we should check. Sports car is greater than speed limit, and we see that right now sports car's speed is 100 kilometers per hour, which is greater than our speed limit. So instead of this statement, we will have true. As I said, if we have different values, the OR operator will give the true value as the result. To easier calculate the result, I will give you one clue. If you are using OR operator, and if any statement is true, the result is true. No matter how much false statements we'll have, we'll see that there are speeders, while there are at least one true value. For AND operator, if we have any false statement, the result is false. So the entire expression equals to false. No matter how much true I have, this statement is false because I have one false value. You can practice these logical operators with a code challenge in my next video.